Well, what do you know? It is actually Friday.
Finally.
It's not Wednesday. It's not Thursday.
Proper.
It's Friday. And you know what that means? A proper
TLF. And we are looking at the predictions for the melee specs in Mythic Plus based on what we have done in the dungeons, what we have seen, and what we have heard from the better key pushers in our community, and see exactly what is what and who needs to be nerfed. I'm kidding, nobody needs to be nerfed.
And who is who? Now, but seriously, take this with a grain of salt. As we said in the previous videos for video for range DPS, this is prediction. This is all speculation, okay? We really wouldn't know 100% what things are going to look like after the season starts, and we're gonna have, you know, gear and item levels bumped up, and probably some tuning happening as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's still a prediction, speculation time, okay? But yeah, we kind of have educated guesses here because we're not just pulling stuff out of our ass. We did talk to a lot of people who are pushing high keys.
We've played on beta for a while.
Played on beta a lot of M+. We have played like all of the dungeons through M0 and stuff, so we kind of have an idea on what we would base these speculations upon.
And hey, if we're wrong, it just makes it more fun next time we're here. It's like, yo, we did not assess this one right.
Yeah, exactly. It's always fun to see how good and correct we were. But it's more fun to just point the finger. We were wrong. We were definitely wrong. But you know who's never wrong? Our Patreons, man, because they're the best people in the world supporting the content that we do here at Marcelian Online. You're supporting Flame here, you're supporting Marcelian here, and Sunshade, who is like head of research and editing all over the place, and lots more other stuff cool to do. So it's a three people job here.
I'm so glad you didn't say three-way, because that would have been really weird. But yes, the Patreon platform is supporting all the content that you see on our channel, and if you want to see more, if you want to be a part of it, if you want to help us grow this even more with more cool videos, consider clicking the Patreon link down below in the description.
Yeah, there's goodies over there for you as well. And now let's see how goody Arms Warrior is, baby. Not too much. I'm sorry, Flame.
Well, actually, I don't know. Arms, because some Arms is actually kind of middle of the pack. It's right now. It has pretty good tools. It feels like it's always in the shadow of Fury Warrior, but Arms is a solid B tier right now.
We'll put it in B tier. I mean, it does have the kit. It does. We all know it can do amazing cleave. It can do great single target damage. In terms of like the AoE, when we're talking about 50+ mobs, there's super strong competition over there, and you're gonna see some other specs that can really outshine it. So we are just speculating here, predicting Arms is gonna be in the safe zone. B tier is the safe zone, so you bring an Arms or a Warrior, you're gonna be absolutely fine. The numbers are gonna
execute
be there.
still king.
Yeah, push stuff and all of that, but not quite as material. Assassination. Le Rogue. So everybody who's playing Assassination was kind of expecting Rogues to do a lot better in Mythic Plus, and they will. This is guaranteed. Especially if you're gonna have like tyrannical weeks, single target for Assassination is gonna be probably one of the best, if not the best, all around. However, we all know Mythic Plus also involves Fortified, and you have a lot of like targets to deal with from pack to pack and all. I mean, Assassination did have a indiscriminate carnage added to its toolkit, which addresses the high maintenance AoE situation for it, but it is still, I would say, on a much too higher of a cooldown to make it work as fluid and as fast and as efficient as some of the other specs. So that being said, if this would have not been the case, Assassination would have easily gone into a D tier. However, we can predict it being in the safe zone as well. So I would definitely put it into a B tier. There's some other rogue specs that need to be discussed here as well, but we'll get to it, okay?
Yeah, eventually.
How about Enhancement Shaman?
Enhancement Shaman has been surprising, similar to the elemental counter spec that the Shaman has in terms of damage. It's actually doing really well. As opposed to elemental, I don't think it's quite S tier just yet. I think there are some contenders that we will be discussing about pretty soon. However, Enhancement is doing a lot of damage. And, you know, I mean, you do have the versatility of building different kinds of tools to deal with the AoE. You pretty much have, I think, pretty much everything that you had in Shadowlands by the end, which made Enhancement a lot more viable. And I guess we will have to see with the addition of Elemental Blast being a part of the toolkit, and it slaps really hard, but it also gives you a percentage of stats based on it. It's likely that Enhancement is just going to scale really, really highly with gear. So I kind of see it being above arms in the Assassination. I think it's A tier
for sure, yeah. A tier for sure. I mean, you cannot really deny all of the synergy Enhancement has. It has the proper toolkit. It's all a matter of tuning and stuff. I mean, it's so far we predicted on being super solid. Not S material. We'll see what's the S material like and why. But let's talk about Feral Druid.
Cat.
I mean, Feral Druid has been struggling in Mythic Plus for the longest time. I know I've made it in Season 1 in Shadowlands.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was good, but you felt bad when you saw like a Fire Mage or at that time it was a Marksman Hunter, and you like had to work your ass off to get even close.
But not anymore.
Not anymore the case now. I mean, Feral Druid is a goddamn beast, man, and we can see it doing really, really good. Again, it can deliver super giga single target damage, no problemo, but it can also deliver now on AoE, and boy does it deliver.
Oh, the toolkit change for Feral just makes it such a blast to play in Mythic Plus. We still believe that it's maybe one of the funnest melee specs in the game right now, it's playing a lot better. You have a lot more tools. The damage profile seems to be nice, and it will probably be even better with the tier set. So I don't know exactly where it is with Enhancement. They're kind of close. I think Enhancement is probably slightly better.
Regardless, if we could put the same spot into A tier, we would put them there. Not S material once again, but it could be S tier if it gets a little, because I don't see changes to the talents, but if the tuning goes around during the season, you can see Feral, being bumped up to S tier, no problemo. But there's other specs that can take the cake, more traditional ones. Okay.
One of such specs is not Frost DK. Frost DK is not actually bad, but Frost DK is also kind of a spec that's a little bit awkward at the beginning of an expansion.
It has to compete with Unholy, and we all know what Unholy will do.
I mean, I think it has a long way until it actually gets to compete with Unholy. I think there's a couple of steps in between, but until then, Frost DK, even with the talent changes, it's still probably going to want Breath of Sindragosa in dungeons, and Breath of Sindragosa is a very difficult cooldown to do with low eye level, with low levels of face, low levels of crit and stuff like that, because you are reliant on your runic power economy, which is obviously very heavily influenced by your eye level. With that being said, obviously the tier set is going to improve upon that overall, and obviously higher eye level is going to improve upon that as well. So it's not doom and gloom. I think Frost DK is still middle of the pack, it's still pretty good. I don't know if it's better or worse than Assassination.
No, it cannot really compete with. So this is Assassination will win in Tyrannical against the Frost DK, because there's really, I can hardly see a super strong contender on single target for Assassination.
Probably.
So I'm gonna put it behind it.
All right.
Just in terms of like predicting, obviously it's gonna do, I think, a better job in Cleave than Assassination, although. It's still a discussion to be had.
I can probably see Assassination scaling a little bit faster than Frost DK, although people are kind of cringing and whenever we say scaling, but it feels like maybe Assassination is not as heavily reliant, because Frost DK is like a one-trick pony. You got the one cooldown and that's mostly it. You have stuff in between, but Assassination might have some other tools as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're gonna keep it like that. On the other hand, Fury Warrior.
Big boy.
Oh my god, Fury Warrior, another success stories in terms of its talents and synergies and playstyles. Its kit is like amazingly worked out. You can do high amounts of damage as like multi-pack.
I have to say, man, with the addition of Odin's Fury, I have fell in love with Fury. As a big ARMS fanboy, always ARMS is biz. I have been surprised at how much I'm actually playing Fury instead of ARMS. And that aside, with the addition of Odin's Fury, that just makes Fury even better in Mythic Plus. I mean, obviously the builds can change. However, the builds that we've been playing on AoE so far are pretty good. There's a lot of bursts, very fast, constant burst on almost every pack. Actually, Fury Warriors, when they burst with all of their cooldowns up, are probably the best DPSers in the game, or at least at the very top. It's just kind of hard because outside of that's where it kind of starts to fall off. Outside of cooldowns, they're a little bit.
I know that syndrome. Yeah, but that being said, we predict like Fury Warriors be like at the top of the game, clearly right now in front of all of these specs in A tier. And we're gonna see why they're not S tier just yet. Let's talk about Havoc Demon Hunter. And this is like, I guess this is no surprise, looking at what the spec did in our testing in Mythic Plus on beta, looking at what it does on M0s and what we're expecting it to do. There's no denying.
Havoc is really good. No. Havoc is is really good. So basically, it received a lot of changes, and obviously, together with Windwalker, which we'll get to at one point, the new talent trees are something new for these two specs, and it's been
They nailed it.
pleasantly surprised at how well they went in depth into the mechanics that the specs can pull off, and the options when you do Mythic Plus. You do actually have tools as Havoc to deal with different situations. Obviously, one build is probably going to be better than the others, but Mythic Plus is always different depending on the group that you're in, depending on the dungeons that you're in, and obviously the weak and the affixes. And I think that Havoc, among other specs as well, but most, like more than Fury, for instance, I think Havoc has more tools to deal with Mythic Plus and what kind of damage they want. And with the actual numbers that they're pulling out,
yeah, they have higher numbers than Fury.
It's high up
sure.
there.
We'll have higher numbers. Yeah, it's an S tier, boys and gals. This is it. I'm sorry, it's there. And trust me when I say this, it's not a 2-button spec anymore. Okay, it's not the
Good
case.
luck with your 2-button spec if you want to play.
It's not, guys. I mean, you seriously have to look into it, and enough said about that. Now, one of my favorites on this list.
One of your favorites.
Outlaw Rogue.
A little birdie said it's your main.
It is my main. Well, Rogue in general. I love all 3 specs of Rogue. I just love how they did Outlaw for Dragonflight. It's not too much change, but it is a difference in playstyle. And right now, because I have to make my predictions on this, it's like, the Audacity. Every Outlaw main knows about the Audacity talent.
Tell me.
And the little gameplay loop there where, Audacity will get you to do an ambush for free, and that will proc off a pistol shot. You do pistol shot that will proc off an Audacity. And that's like the gameplay loop. And to that with Blade Flurry, it's just tons of damage. Now, I would have put it into S tier. There's only one reason I will not place it there. But it can get really like super fast over there. So it's still target cap. So whenever you're gonna have like beyond 5 targets, you're gonna start falling off in damage. Plus,
you're not using the 8 targets.
You still have that, but again, it's still low. You use that, okay? But you're gonna have packs way higher than that. And when you're gonna have in a team of Boom King, when you're gonna have other specs over there, even
flame strike. We know the flame strikes. The not target capped options.
Yeah, but even a Havoc and so on. So it's gonna be hard to compete in terms of damage with that. That being said, Outlaw is giga fun. It's gonna be it's a rogue, so you're gonna bring all the rogue specs utility. Not to mention that Outlaw was traditionally a Mythic Plus spec, apart from the season where Subtlety kind of dominated that for a little bit. It's, I would say, in front of the A tier for now. Beautiful to play. Performance-wise, I can see it like... I wouldn't see it at the top of the damage meter, so let's make this clear.
Ambush, baby, ambush!
Yeah, it's the ambush build, and it's a different playstyle from what a lot of the rogues got used to, right? This is very different because you don't really have to spam Sinister Strike to get procs for pistol shot and then, dispatch or whatever. No, you have to like fish for those procs, and it's really, you still have the same gameplay, right? With the roll the bones and, make sure you roll when you need to roll and keep the buffs you need. It's all there, but this is a little different playstyle. So that's why I love it, and I see it.
Happy to hear it. Been pulling for the ambush for a long time.
Yes. Okay, Ret Paladin. So, Ret Paladin, a lot of people call us haters on Ret Paladins or noobs on Ret Paladins.
Don't we know it?
So, we take that to heart. I have loved the Ret Paladin since like day one. I will forever be a Ret Paladin main. So, I always been Rogue and Paladin. That was my jam all my WoW career, okay? I didn't like what they did with it in Dragonflight. That's it. That's why I never accepted it, never came to terms with it. And I always said this, and that not only me, like Bolus also said this from the Red Discord. Dude, a spec can have a bad talent tree and have good numbers. We've seen that with the bugs with Ret Paladin on the beta. We saw it in M0. It does fine. I don't see it as like, Giga S tier material or not even A tier material, but I can see it in the safe zone. So its damage is decent, okay?
It's decent. I mean, the damage is actually really good. The problem that
it's better than ARMS.
It's probably better than other specs as well, but the thing is probably what's gonna keep Red from being higher in the series, because obviously the numbers are like what 90% of the reason why specs are in the way they are.
Yeah.
They don't really bring a lot of other stuff, and however much we also hit on Prot Paladin, it's likely that Prot Paladin is gonna be one of the better tanks for Mythic Plus, and if you bring a Prot Paladin, might not see too much red.
That's what would have been my next argument. Have you seen what Prot Paladin can do? It's like if you're gonna bring a Prot Paladin, teams will not necessarily bring, but it's a safe zone. So if you're gonna have friends that play red, if you play red and you have like a solid group, if you're gonna play it, you're gonna be fine. Okay, so that's all there is to it. I still don't like the iteration they did with Dragonflight. I loved like almost all iterations of Red Paladin since like up until Dragonflight, I will retain my position. This is bugged out. They could have done what the ideas had good premise for Dragonflight. The execution of it felt lackluster. All I'm gonna say. Subtlety Rogue, on the other hand, I'm pretty sad for this one because this is in fact my favorite rogue spec, like for all eternity. The thing with Subtlety is that sure, you still have your cool niche, like you can do super high single target, super high priority. You can still do like a good AoE. I think it's a matter here where the tuning and the numbers that I've seen and tested myself, they're not there, and they cannot really compete with any of the other specs. Plus, there's hard competition. So when we're predicting this for the Mythic Plus scene, you're gonna have hard competition as a rogue main with Outlaw more directly. Okay, store assassination as well to some capacity, but Outlaw is gonna be preferred in a lot of teams. And I feel at this point how Outlaw has been constructed and the playstyle, I think it's a little bit more fun as well. Subtlety feels a little bit more blend. They haven't really changed much with it, right? It's the same old thing, more or less. Whereas Outlaw, there's always something to do. So for this matter,
yeah, it felt like Subtlety had a lot more potential with the talent options that they're going with. Yeah, there's some interesting things there, but like you said,
if you love Subtlety, you're gonna love this one. Just predicting where it's gonna stand in Mythic Plus.
Yeah, numbers wise, it's a little bit awkward, and I'm kind of sad to see it all the way at the
put it into C
bottom.
Tier. Put it into C tier. Sorry, I love Subtlety. I would wish if there was a chance, I would play Subtlety all day long.
Listen, man, I feel you, man, because the next one is kind of like paired up like my ex main that I couldn't main for the Sepulchre tier because of how they've done my boy wrong with the tier set and the bombs. Its overall design seems to be a little bit better in Dragonflight right now, with a little bit focus outside of bombs as well. However, I do retain my position that the talent tree is lackluster, and unless they buff it to like ridiculous numbers, it's probably going to be a bad spec. Now, I'm not sure right now if it's a bad spec because of the overall talent design, because of the overall damage numbers, because of like the inconsistency and stuff, but it is one of the C tier specs that we see so far. Because I feel like survival actually needs a lot of love to be able to actually compete with not only the B tier specs, but even its other hunter specs altogether.
And it BM, like in the last video where you saw it, like A tier material, super good.
It's not even close, and it's such a shame because I actually kind of like some of the new things that they're doing with the survival, but it just feels like it's just not there yet. Yeah,
sorry about that, survival boys. What a fall from grace, eh? But let me tell you the story about Unholy DKs, which I will say right off the bat, it's been very hard to place this. It's basically on the same spot as Outlaw for me as a prediction. Probably gonna go into S tier if things work out the way I expect them to do. Why? Because Unholy DK is back to the quadratic scaling. You basically, if you remember BFA, this is more or less that to some capacity. Unholy DK has basically all the tools it needs to be great on Tyrannical, to be great on Fortified. The build variety is just amazing. Plus, the performance is great as well.
I mean, you probably have seen a lot of nerfs to the bursting swords, which is definitely what's contributing to its quadratic scaling. However, it does have an easier time spreading wounds right now as opposed to BFA with Vile Contagion. I think the name of it was. And obviously, we got Fish and White back, which is amazing, and a bunch of other stuff that are actually really giving Unholy a really round out version of its damage profile, and I think it's really good. It's all the way up, like you said. It's very close.
I would put them both Outlaw and Unholy. I would put them at the
I feel like Unholy is one of those specs that requires a very specific pool route, and the number of packs to actually get its full profile out. So in a pug, you might not see Unholy smack too hard, but if you have a pre-made group that know how to play with an Unholy in your group, it's very likely that it could be the best DPSer in your party.
One more thing about Unholy. So as opposed to Outlaw, right? Unholy will do very great in, I would say, 15s and above. Because you really need that, those rots going in and having the targets live for a little. If you're going to talk like 15 below, Unholy is not going to have like the proper ramp time to just have everything explode around it. This is another thing. Whereas Outlaw, it just does its rotation and you get the damage all the time, regardless of the key. So, again, I'm very conflicted about these two, but both have S tier potential. We'll just have to see. Now, Windwalker Monk, the spec that I would say has been like the most complete, the most close to perfect as you would get to it. They did a fantastic job with the talents and the builds, and most importantly, the problems with the spec that were like predominant in like I would say the last 3 expansions at least have been addressed and fixed, and not only addressed and fixed, but actually matter. So we all know like Windwalker was a like great performer in Mythic Plus. It was like top melee for a lot of seasons, and this is to like spinning great kick and bone
it kind of continues that way. I do have to point out a little caveat. So right now Windwalker is the best spec in the game, I think, period. We could probably, well, we're probably never gonna have like a range and melee tier list at the same time because that would just take 2 hours to do. But I feel like Windwalker's probably doing more damage than any other DPS in the game. It's still probably likely to some of the bugs that are still not fixed. We talked about a bunch of them with Babs on our Windwalker podcast with the touch of death situation, which it doesn't seem like it has been solved just yet. I would expect it to be addressed at one point. Until then, Windwalker is going to annihilate in Mythic Plus.
This is the top of the food chain right now. Because when we were talking about weeks where you would have Tyrannical, you would not see as many Windwalker presence over there just because the single target wasn't on point. But now you can have like ridiculous single target as well on top of its like super potent AoE damage. There's also a factor here which Babs really pointed out really good on the podcast. Like a lot of people who will play with Skyreach, this is gonna take some getting used to. They're gonna see a lot of fails. But all that aside, we kind of predict that in terms of like the most preferred melee in a group, not to mention Mystic Touch, this is another thing. Another reason why these 2 specs are our prediction for S tier is like, apart from their amazing numbers and the toolkit they'll have available to them, they also bring the debuffs that are, essential to a lot of like efficient pushing.
Yeah, and
so
it's likely you're gonna get those debuffs from a Windwalker. Then Brewmasters are okay, but they do struggle with survivability. And Mistweavers have been one of the least played specs in the game historically. And even though they're probably okay doing keys, it's likely Mistweaver's never gonna take Windwalker in terms of popularity. So you're probably gonna get what the Monk brings to you from your Windwalker.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. And as in the previous ranged predictions video for M+, S tier is like the gods of what we expect to happen in Mythic Plus melee side. A tier is like specs that are really strong, like close to becoming S tier, but they still need a couple of things happening over there.
Yeah.
B tier is the safe zone. If you play these within a team or yourself, your team has one, there's no problem. You're gonna have the sufficient numbers and capabilities to like push higher keys. C tier is like, okay, this needs some help. It's not
help,
like
please.
It's not doom and
SOS.
gloom. I mean, we didn't really see, and we cannot really predict some like super like D tier stuff, like unplayable shit over there.
No. Even with survival, they still feel like it's gonna be kind of fine. And to be fair, even with this, even if our predictions are right, even if our predictions are wrong, the tuning is definitely happening consistently. Even as the expansion has been released, we've seen like buffs to a bunch of specs, and we're probably gonna see more and more.
Yeah.
So when we're gonna be coming back to this in a couple of weeks or a month or 2 at a time, we're gonna see exactly how this all turns out, and see if we're wrong.
Yeah, but you know who's never wrong? Our Patreons who are supporting the content. As always, we love you guys. Remember, you can check the link in the description and join the Patreon team. You can see the list of all these beautiful souls who are supporting all of our content. Thank you so much, guys. It means the world to us. And thank you for watching this video up until this point. You really watched up until this point?
I mean, that's pretty nice. It definitely helps the algorithm, and you do deserve a bye-bye. Happy weekend. See you next week. Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.